Ray is an ordinary individual residing in a futuristic Japan where a game known as Infinite Dendrogram was launched 2 years ago. This game has gained fame for being the most realistic game ever developed. After saving up for a while, Ray was finally able to afford to play this highly praised game. Upon wearing the headset and entering the game, Ray is welcomed by a friendly feline character who acts as his guide, introducing him to the immersive world of the game. She presents him with a precious gem called an Embryo, which becomes affixed to his hand. This Embryo is believed to hold significant power, serving as his key to success within this virtual realm. Following the introductory phase, Ray finds himself transported to the game's actual world, awakening in front of a grand entrance gate. As he proceeds inside, he discovers a vibrant and lively city teeming with numerous individuals. As Ray was walking around the city, he suddenly got hit by a girl who was rushing around the corner. As he is currently at level 0, he is on the verge of dying, but to his surprise, the girl, Liliana, heals him back to full health. She introduces herself and informs Ray that her little sister has gone missing. Liliana hands Ray a note with information on where to find her sister. As he receives the memo, a level 5 quest appears, indicating that Liliana is an NPC. Ray decides to seek the help of his older brother, Shu, who has been playing the game for some time and might know how to handle this situation. He finds Shu dressed as a bear and handing out candy to children. Shu tells Ray that this game is incredibly realistic and every action has consequences. Shu elaborates on the consequences of dying in the game, informing Ray that it results in a 20-hour ban from playing. He further explains that NPCs in the game are treated as genuine individuals, and if they die, they remain permanently deceased. Upon learning this, Ray becomes determined to assist Liliana in finding her missing sister. He requests Shu's support and Shu agrees to join him. Together, they set off towards an abandoned forest known to be infested with numerous dangerous bug-like monsters. As they reach the forest's entrance, Shu equips Ray with necessary items for self-defense. They enter the forest and witness Liliana valiantly fighting a horde of monsters alone, fiercely protecting her sister. In an awe-inspiring display, Shu charges through, wielding a colossal minigun to decimate the monster horde. However, their victory is short-lived as 3 colossal centipedes emerge from the ground, launching a surprise attack on Shu. When the commotion subsides, Shu is nowhere to be found, leaving behind a gaping hole in the ground. Before Ray can react, one of the centipedes lunges at him, but Liliana swiftly comes to his aid, defending him from the impending attack. Liliana instructs Ray to take her sister and flee, prompting him to grab the young girl and run towards the gate. However, along the way, they are pursued by a centipede, and Ray is forced to confront the creature alone while telling the girl to escape to safety. Despite being no match for the monster, Ray engages in battle, getting hit 3 times and having to use health potions to recover his health each time. Eventually, the centipede loses interest in him and begins pursuing the girl instead. Ray tries to catch up, but is too late, and the centipede launches the girl up in the air. With quick reflexes, Ray jumps and catches her, saving her from certain death. Both Ray and the young girl are now on the verge of dying, and with no health potions left, Ray desperately begs the Embryo to aid him. Suddenly, a girl named Nemesis emerges from the Embryo gemstone, introducing herself and transforming into a giant sword. Instructing Ray to attack the centipede, Ray swings the sword, killing the monster just as it was about to deal a final blow. Liliana later heals them both, and Shu survives thanks to his skill that allows him to dig through the ground. Liliana expresses her gratitude and walks back to town with her sister. The next day, Shu takes Ray to a guild shop where he gets some new gear and chooses the knight class. Shu tells Ray that to become an actual paladin, he needs a recommendation from another paladin. Ray quickly visits Liliana, and she provides him with the required recommendation, making him eligible to become a paladin. Shu and Ray part ways from there, and Ray, along with Nemesis, ventures into the hunting grounds to gain more levels and kill some monsters. While fighting some goblins, Ray notices 2 people struggling against a group of goblins and decides to help them. Ray decides to help Rook and Baby defeat the goblins by healing them from a distance, giving them an advantage to kill the monsters. They introduce themselves as Rook, another new player, and Baby, his Embryo companion. The trio decides to share a meal at a nearby cafe and then part ways, pledging to join forces in a party someday. Later in the evening, Ray ventures into a forest to continue leveling up. However, he suddenly sustains an attack, losing some health points. Reacting swiftly, he identifies the assailant as another monster and swiftly eliminates it. Realizing that something is amiss, Ray senses danger and begins to flee the area upon hearing screams from other players. Unfortunately, before he can escape, he is ambushed and killed by an unknown player. He reawakens in the real world, facing a 24-hour ban from the game. Upon returning to the game, Ray finds Nemesis feeling despondent, believing herself to be responsible for his demise. Ray uplifts her spirits, and together they venture into a dungeon to slay monsters, as the surrounding areas are deemed unsafe. Within the depths of the dungeon, Ray valiantly combats multiple zombie-like creatures. As they descend a staircase, Ray is suddenly attacked by someone. Reacting swiftly, he blocks the attack and realizes that it was a misunderstanding. The assailant introduces himself as Figaro and apologizes for mistaking Ray for a monster. Upon recognizing Figaro's name from the top of the leaderboards, Ray quickly remembers their encounter, and Figaro once again apologizes before taking his leave. Ray continues to grind and level up before returning to his room to rest. The next day, Rei reunites with Rook during breakfast, and Rook informs him about the peculiar incident where all the player killers were found dead overnight. They find his development highly unusual and begin contemplating what could have possibly transpired. Suddenly, a woman named Marie approaches their table and introduces herself as a news reporter. Marie offers to show them what exactly happened in exchange for payment, which Rei and Rook agree to provide. Marie then retrieves a crystal ball and reveals that 4 exceptionally skilled players from the kingdom were summoned to eliminate the 4-player killing factions situated in the cardinal directions. Marie proceeds to show Rei and Rook video clips of the superior players single-handedly decimating entire gangs within the game. Surprisingly, one of the superiors turns out to be Figaro, effortlessly annihilating an entire gang. Similarly, the other 2 superiors exhibit exceptional prowess, effortlessly dealing with the challenges presented by the game. However, Rei's attention is particularly drawn to the superior assigned to eliminate the gang in the northern region, where he himself was killed a few days ago. Curiosity piqued, he watches as the forest in the north is engulfed in a devastating inferno, with everything being burned to ashes. According to Marie, the leader of that gang is a superior killer, and he was the only one to escape the fiery onslaught. Intrigued by this revelation, Rei decides to investigate the forest firsthand. To his shock, he witnesses the extent of the devastation, observing the charred remnants of what was once a lush and vibrant forest. Later in the evening, Rei, Rook, and Marie meet up once again and agree to embark on a quest together as a party. Marie expresses her desire to accompany them, stating that her assigned direction aligns with their quest. Both Rook and Rei welcome her presence, and they decide to rest for the night, planning to set out the following morning. On the designated day, the group gathers and boards a wagon drawn by a tamed rhino, a skill that Rook has acquired as a beast tamer. Along their journey, they come across a group of players who are surrounded by goblins. Rei and Rook swiftly decide to aid them, engaging in a fierce battle against the goblins. Together, they successfully eliminate the threat. The leader of the caravan approaches Rei, expressing his gratitude for their assistance. However, their moment of relief is abruptly interrupted as a massive ogre descends from the sky and kills the caravan leader. Marie informs Rei that the ogre possesses a substantial bounty on its head. Determined to face the formidable foe, Rei confronts the ogre, launching powerful attacks. However, the ogre retaliates by releasing a cloud of purple gas, impairing Rei's senses and causing his health to gradually decline. As Rei finds himself unable to move, the ogre prepares to crush him. However, Rook is saved when Bailey swoops in, grabbing him and flying away to safety, avoiding the poisonous gas. Meanwhile, the rhino charges at the ogre, pushing it back momentarily. However, the powerful ogre retaliates by throwing the rhino aside, injuring it. With the ogre now focusing its attention on Rei once again, it delivers a powerful punch. Undeterred, Rei retaliates with a swift sword slash, managing to woo the ogre. Rei realizes that he won't be able to defeat the ogre if he remains in a weakened state. Just then, Marie throws a potion at Rei's face, effectively removing the poison's effects for a limited time of 180 seconds. Seizing the opportunity, Rei activates one of his skills that allows him to deal significant damage while also enduring a high level of damage. He stands up, charges at the ogre, and slashes at its legs. Although he is kicked back by the ogre, Rei persists in his relentless assault, repeatedly getting hit, but healing himself in between strikes. Suddenly, a giant bird owned by the ogre swoops in and attacks Rei, further escalating the perilous situation. With Rook keeping the giant bird occupied, Rei focuses his attention on the ogre. He lands a few more powerful strikes before Nemesis alerts him that his special attack is ready. Rei leaps into the air, sword drawn, and launches his attack. However, the ogre counters with a fiery assault. Rei manages to block the attack and delivers his special attack, severing the ogre's head. To his surprise, the ogre remains alive and lands a punch on Rei before he can react. Realizing that the ogre's heart must be located in its stomach, Rei understands why it continues to fight despite its severed head. However, Rei is low on health points and lacks the ability to sustain further damage. Additionally, the effects of the potion have worn off. In a fortuitous turn, Nemesis evolves into a level 2 embryo, transforming into a halberd. This upgrade grants Rei resistance to poison and the ability to self-heal. When the ogre employs its poison attack once again, Rei charges through it and stabs his belly. While he manages to inflict damage, the ogre swiftly regenerates the injured area. Rei realizes that he needs to accumulate more damage and unleash his special skill to defeat the ogre. He relentlessly charges at the ogre, slashing it multiple times while enduring the pain inflicted upon him. Finally, after accumulating enough damage, Rei charges at the ogre one last time and delivers a decisive blow, ending its life. As a reward for his victory, Rei claims his special brace as his prize. After receiving the bounty for defeating the ogre at the guild, they divide their rewards among themselves. Rook successfully tames the giant bird, adding another formidable beast to their arsenal. In the evening, Rei tests his new bracers at the hunting grounds. Later, Ray encounters a peculiar person dressed in a penguin costume who mysteriously knows his name. The person hands Ray a potion that gives him dog ears but quickly disappears before Ray can acquire further. The following day, Ray visits a shop to upgrade his gear and find a more stylish coat. With Nemesis by his side, they search the shop and eventually discover a red furry coat that suits him well. Coincidentally, Rook also arrives at the shop and joins them in their shopping venture. After some friendly conversation, they approach a vending machine that dispenses small balls resembling lottery tickets. Ray decides to buy several balls with his money but has no luck in winning anything, while Rook purchases only one ball and remarkably obtains a rare pair of magical gloves that look visually appealing. As Ray bids farewell to Rook and leaves the store with Nemesis, he walks through a field still pondering his unfortunate luck. However, he decides to open the final ball he obtained and is pleasantly surprised. Inside the ball is a silver mechanized horse, an exceptionally rare item. This stroke of luck brings a glimmer of joy to Ray, contrasting his earlier disappointments. Motivated by his empathy, Ray rushes over to the corner, where he witnesses a distressing scene. A young girl is surrounded by a group of intimidating men who are harassing her for money. Despite Nemesis reminding him that she is just an NPC, ignoring the doubts and reasoning presented by Nemesis, Ray steps forward to intervene and stand up against the men, ready to protect the girl from harm and ensure her safety. Ray, observing the situation unfold, becomes intrigued by the young boy's confident yet peculiar demeanor. As the goons start charging towards the boy, Ray's instincts kick in, and he realizes that the boy might not be as prepared as he initially claimed. They take pleasure in mocking him for his level 100 status. Their attention then shifts to Ray, whom they assume to be the boy's companion. One of the goons charges at Ray, attempting to land a punch, but Ray surprises everyone with his skill and swiftly retaliates, causing the goon to be thrown to the ground. Ray himself is taken aback by the unexpected force behind his punch, as he had not intended to strike the goon with such intensity. He turns to Nemesis and inquires if she had boosted his strength, but she denies having done so. He appears confused, but Nemesis reminds him that he is wearing the bracer, which grants him 100 times increased strength. Ray finally comprehends the reason behind his sudden surge in power. Ray then confronts the remaining goons, challenging them to come at him. However, they are too frightened and flee as fast as they can. Ray swiftly approaches the battered boy and uses his healing abilities to restore him. The boy expresses his gratitude and introduces himself as Hugo. Ray questions why Hugo, being a level 100, was easily defeated. Hugo explains that he wasn't prepared and that his abilities require some time to develop. Meanwhile, a distressed girl who is being harassed rushes towards them in tears, pleading for their help. Hugo enjoys playing the role of a knight and indulges in cliched talk about how it is his duty to rescue damsels in distress like her. However, Ray, not one for empty words, gets straight to the point and asks her about what happened. The girl reveals that a notorious gang has been operating in the hills, capturing and kidnapping children from the village. These children are subjected to experiments and ultimately consumed by the gang. Ray is horrified upon hearing this and learns that the girl's brother has also been taken captive. She desperately wants her brother back and is willing to do anything for him. Ray assures her that he will ensure her brother's safe return, no matter the cost. The girl breaks down in tears, overwhelmed by Ray's kindness and compassion. Hugo, observing the situation, declares that he will accompany Ray and do whatever it takes to assist him and rescue the children. Ray expresses his gratitude, and together they leave the town. But Hugo leads Ray into a forest where they walk for a while before Kumo throws a white mechanical sheet. Suddenly, a series of holographic buttons start floating around. Ray is completely taken aback by the sudden revelation, but Hugo swiftly enters his password, causing a hidden vault to open up from beneath the ground. From within, a massive mech emerges, leaving Ray astounded. He had never seen such a thing in the game before. Curious, Ray asks Hugo about it. Hugo explains that he possesses the rare skill of being a mech user, allowing him to control the giant robot with ease. He attributes his high-level status in the game to his expertise in operating the mech. However, without the mech, his other stats are rather average, which is why he was easily defeated by the goons earlier. Ray inquires if Hugo knows the whereabouts of the gang's hideout. Hugo reveals that Sicko, his Embryo companion, managed to extract the information from one of the captured goons. According to her, the gang is hiding in the mountains and utilizing a dungeon as their base of operations. Hugo climbs into the mech, and together they venture through the jungle towards the hideout. Upon reaching the vicinity, they pause and scout the area, searching for strategic locations to launch their attack. As they observe the scene, a group of carts filled with children arrives near the dungeon. Sicko, utilizing her exceptional hearing abilities, eavesdrops on their conversation and discovers that they are planning to kill the girl's brother as retaliation for their comrades being defeated and captured. Ray expresses the urgency of the situation, emphasizing the need to quickly move forward and prevent any harm from coming to the child. However, Hugo interrupts him, stressing the importance of having a plan. He points out that the entire castle is heavily guarded, and charging in without a strategy would result in significant resistance. Hugo proposes that he will create a distraction, allowing Ray to enter the dungeon swiftly. Ray agrees to the plan and expresses his gratitude to Hugo for taking on the role of the distraction. Before initiating the distraction, Hugo cautions Ray to take care of himself. He then fires a missile at one of the horses, causing chaos and drawing the attention of the enemy forces. However, Hugo's action raises concerns about the potential harm to the children in the carts. Fortunately, luck is on their side and no damage is done to the innocents. The enemy soldiers immediately swarm Hugo, unaware of Rei's presence due to his companion's stealth. Taking advantage of the diversion, Rei capitalizes on the thick smoke created by Hugo's smoke grenades, providing him with ample cover to hide and swiftly make his way into the dungeon. As he descends a flight of steps, a repugnant odor fills the air, indicating the presence of death and decaying flesh. Rei waits in anticipation, preparing to face his opponent, but his horror intensifies as he realizes that the source of the foul smell is the reanimated corpses of the sacrificed children. Anger courses through Rei as he struggles to comprehend how anyone could commit such heinous acts. Nemesis urges Rei to eliminate the zombified children, but Rei hesitates, torn by the realization that these bodies were once filled with innocent lives. However, Nemesis reminds him that freeing them from the cruelty of their existence is a mercy. With a heavy heart and tears in his eyes, Rei summons the power of his fire embracer, unleashing a massive flame that engulfs the zombified children. In a matter of seconds, they turn to ashes, carried away by the gentle breeze. Rei stands there, grappling with the weight of what he has done, unable to shake off the feeling of mutilating the bodies of the deceased children. Nemesis assures Rei that he has gained a special ability to release the souls of the damned, granting them passage to heaven. Rei takes a moment to pray for the children, offering them solace and releasing their tormented souls from the earthly realm. With a heavy heart, he moves on to the next area, where he is confronted by a grim sight. The surroundings are lined with barred cells containing sick and malnourished children. Despite his horror, Rei attempts to help them, but their feeble condition prevents them from responding to his efforts. Suddenly, Rei hears a rattling sound coming from a nearby room. Intrigued, he approaches and discovers a ritual chamber adorned with a large circle on the floor. Inside the circle lies a small child, barely conscious, on the brink of death. Rei rushes to the boy's side, intending to rescue him and the other children from the dungeon. However, to his shock, the possessed boy stabs Rei in the chest, leaving him wounded and bleeding on the floor. The Lich, now free from the boy's body, revels in his victory over Rei and contemplates killing the young boy. Before he can act, though, his arm is severed by Rei, who rises from the ground, determined to defeat the Lich. The Lich attempts to weaken Rei by using a special ability to drain his strength, but it proves ineffective. He summons undead creatures to attack Rei, but Rei effortlessly dispatches them. Seeing his imminent defeat, the Lich, named Misty, panics and flees outside in search of safety. Rei pursues him relentlessly. Upon reaching the outside, Rei realizes that Hugo has already defeated Misty's partner, blocking any escape route for Misty. Cornered and desperate, Misty resorts to a powerful magical blast, fueled by a special crystal. However, Rei utilizes his magic absorption ability, channeling the blast energy into his sword. Overwhelmed by the absorbed power, Misty falls to his knees, begging for mercy. But Rei, fueled by anger and determination, ignores the plea and delivers a fatal blow, severing Misty's head from his body, ending his life instantly. Rei and Hugo enter the dungeons, determined to rescue all the kidnapped children. However, upon emerging, they are confronted by a massive monster formed from the absorbed bodies of the slain demons, powered by the Lich's core. In the midst of the chaos, Rei notices one of the children approaching them under attack from the demon. He swiftly uses his bracers to unleash flames, stopping the demon's assault and targeting its legs to bring it down. Realizing that time is running out, Rei instructs Hugo to take the children and flee on the carriage while he distracts the demon. Hugo follows Rei's command, ensuring the safety of the children. Rei observes that the demon has regenerated its body, understanding that he must end the fight decisively if he wants to defeat it. He engages the demon once more, focusing on chipping away at its strength without sustaining any further damage, as he has exhausted all of his health potions. Suddenly, the demon decides to pursue Hugo and the children, forcing Rei to give chase. He hurls his halberd at the demon, severing its legs and causing it to fall. Rei attempts to slice through the demon, but it retaliates by flinging him away and unleashing a powerful magical blast. Once again, Rei employs his magic absorption ability to mitigate the damage, but the force of the attack leaves him unconscious and teetering on the edge of death. Nemesis, unable to revive Rei with potions, valiantly defends him until he regains consciousness. As Rei wakes up, Nemesis transforms back into his halberd, and he swiftly charges at the demon, utilizing his poison blast ability to slow it down. Dodging the demon's magic blast, Rei leaps into the air and unleashes his ultimate attack, obliterating the core and slaying the demon. He gains a significant amount of experience points from this victory, and rides back to the town to finally rest. The following day, Rei visits a cafe with Nemesis to enjoy a well-deserved breakfast and encounters Marie there. She presents him with a ticket to watch the tournament from the front box, and after a brief exchange, Rei bids them farewell just as Rook arrives to meet Marie. Rei proceeds to the guild house to claim his prize money and meets up with Hugo. They divide the winnings, and Rei continues on to meet Shu in the streets. Shu leads Rei to a room where he reveals that he is also attending the tournament, and by chance, their seats are next to each other. Rei watches an intense match between two formidable competitors, amazed by their incredible power and ability. abilities. As the match concludes, he spots Shu walking below and rushes towards him. To his surprise, Shu is engaged in a conversation with a person wearing a lion costume, who turns out to be Figaro Cuban. Figaro and Rei, who started playing the game at the same time, are close friends. Figaro gives Rei a special ring that enables telepathic communication between them. After their interaction, Rei returns to his seat with the intention of Figaro joining him soon. On his way back, Rei notices a person carrying a girl in his arms and becomes suspicious, drawing his sword. He believes that the person has kidnapped the girl. However, Shu intervenes, stating that the person seems strong. The person then attempts to attack Shu, but Shu effortlessly defends himself. He introduces himself as Sunu and clarifies that the girl is his subordinate who is currently asleep. With the misunderstanding resolved, Sunu moves away. Shu informs Rei that the main fight of the tournament will be between Figaro and Junior, one of the strongest superiors from a neighboring kingdom. They find their respective booths and the fight begins. Figaro and Sunu appear to be evenly matched in terms of speed and strength. However, Sunu takes the initiative, unleashing a powerful magic explosion. Figaro defends against it using his defensive skill, which he can only employ once. Although Figaro successfully defends himself, it is revealed that Sunu managed to remove Figaro's lungs from his body. Sunu remarks that he had intended to strike Figaro's heart, but ended up hitting his lungs instead. Figaro, despite being injured, starts removing his gear, and his strength and speed rapidly increase. Shu explains that one of Figaro's Embryo abilities allows him to become stronger over time. Figaro wields his superior sword, and Sunu does the same. They charge at each other, and their swords clash. It becomes evident that Sunu's sword has pierced Figaro's chest, while Figaro manages to inflict damage to Sunu's arm. However, Figaro unexpectedly starts relentlessly slashing Sunu, ultimately defeating and killing him. Shu reveals that Figaro's embryonic gemstone is located where his heart should be, which explains his survival. At this moment, Figaro stands motionless in the ring, surprising everyone. Suddenly, a voice is heard, and all eyes turn towards the person in the penguin costume whom Rei had met previously. He introduces himself as Dr. Franklin, a figure known to the other players but unfamiliar to Rei. The players in the arena begin attacking Dr. Franklin, but their attacks prove futile. Then, a bird transforms into a young girl named Ellie, who is revealed to be the princess of the kingdom. Franklin remains standing on top of the shield, encircling the entire stadium, and mocks the helpless players, emphasizing their inability to do anything. In response, one of the brave players launches a powerful magical blast at Franklin. However, the shield effortlessly blocks the attack, infuriating Franklin. He confronts the player, demanding to know why they dared to attack him. Without hesitation, Franklin takes out his iPhone 13 Max Pro Super Cheyenne and presses a button. Instantly, a slimy blue creature emerges from the side and engulfs the player entirely. Within seconds, steam emanates from the slime and the player vanishes without a trace. The shocking disappearance leaves everyone in the stadium astounded. Franklin chuckles at their shock, relishing in their vulnerability. He explains that the slime is one of his special creations, capable of evaporating anything and everything it comes into contact with. Sensing a threat, another player hurls a magic blast at the slime, hoping to destroy it. However, to their surprise, the slime swiftly regenerates itself, standing tall once again, unscathed by the attack. Franklin announces his intention to release monsters throughout the kingdom, claiming they are placed all over the stadium. He presents two options to prevent this catastrophe, either stealing his iPhone Pro Max Super Saiyan or killing him. Regardless of whether he presses the button, the monsters will be unleashed. Shocked and panicked, the players scramble for a solution. Rei and Shu contemplate a plan, with Shu suspecting Franklin's deceitful intentions. They realize Franklin is determined to release the monsters, leaving them with no choice but to confront him. As they head towards the stadium exit, they encounter a barrier that blocks their escape. Some of the players attempt to attack the barrier with magic, but Franklin's hologram appears, warning them about the consequences. Each time the barrier is attacked, a monster will be released in the city, and destroying the barrier will unleash all the monsters. Frustrated, they realize destroying the barrier is not an option. Rei, however, decides to test it by touching the barrier and finds that his hand passes through without any resistance. Perplexed, he turns to Shu and asks about his level, to which Rei responds that he is still at level 41. Shu enlightens Rei, explaining that the barrier was specifically designed to block anyone above level 50, as they were the eligible participants in the tournament. It seems Franklin overlooked this detail when activating the barrier. Realizing this could be their opportunity, Shu urges the players below level 50 to step forward and volunteer to fight against Franklin's forces. Several players, including Rook, come forward and position themselves in front of the barrier, prepared to break through. On the other side, a group of enemy players who have turned traitors stand in their way, determined to stop them from reaching Franklin. Before Rei sets off, Shu presents him with a special protective brooch and advises him to exercise caution. Rei decides to take a calm and strategic approach, extending only his hand beyond the barrier to use his poison skill on the enemies. The enemies are caught off guard and completely shocked by the rookie's powerful spells. They had underestimated their opponent's abilities and were unprepared with potions or countermeasures. While a few experienced players struggle to handle the poison, Rook unleashes devastation with his Rhino and Phoenix, overwhelming the enemies with hellfire. The enemies find themselves helpless against Rook's beast hammer and are clearly outmatched in terms of both preparation and strength. As one enemy charges up for a powerful fire blast, Rook effortlessly nullifies his magic, leaving him astonished. Baby utilizes her charming magic, causing the enemies to turn against each other, resulting in their own demise. Rei continues to advance, swiftly dispatching anyone who stands in his way. However, he becomes momentarily vulnerable when he is hit by the punk's charged fire blast. Normally, an attack of that magnitude would be fatal, but Rei's life is spared thanks to the protective brooch provided by Rei. Rei swiftly turns around and unleashes his special attack, instantly killing the guy and defeating the first wave of enemies on that side of the map. Meanwhile, Maria has been frantically searching for Ellie, whom she had befriended earlier in a park. She spots Franklin carrying Ellie on his giant flying stingray. Using her stealth, Maria sneaks up right behind Franklin and shoots him multiple times before he can react. Taking advantage of the opportunity, she grabs Ellie and swiftly jumps down to the buildings, running at full speed to escape from Franklin. Ellie is overjoyed to see Marie again, and she hands Marie Franklin's iPad or a similar device. Upon inspecting it, Marie realizes that she can see the positions of her allies as well as all of her enemies. This newfound information proves to be extremely helpful as Marie skillfully evades every enemy that might have crossed her path. After examining the map and plotting her path to the exit, Marie quickly moves towards it. However, she is interrupted by a sudden sound emitted from the device, causing Ellie to transform into a bird and fly back to Franklin. Franklin taunts Marie, claiming that he anticipated her interference and specifically recruited someone to deal with her. Suddenly, an explosion rocks the area, causing the building to collapse. Marie regains her composure and notices a peculiar individual surrounded by mechanical animal dolls playing instruments while the dolls dance. Determined and prepared, Marie draws her gun, ready for a fierce battle against this bizarre adversary. Marie and the strange individual face off and the battle commences. Marie attempts to shoot him, but to her surprise, none of her bullets can penetrate the sound barrier created by the adversary. The adversary, using the mechanical animal dolls, unleashes 3 simultaneous sound-based attacks. One attack is a sound explosion that Marie swiftly evades. The second attack involves hypnosis, which Marie resists. Finally, the adversary employs a sound blade possessing a cutting power that can slice through the ground. Despite successfully dodging the adversary's attacks so far, Marie realizes that she cannot continue evading indefinitely. It becomes evident that if she keeps relying solely on evasion, she won't be able to land a single attack on the creep, and her stamina won't hold out for long. Unexpectedly, the adversary ceases playing music and announces that it's time for a solo performance. Confused by this sudden change, Marie tries to regain her balance. To her horror, a deafening ultrasonic sound wave reverberates, causing her blood vessels to burst. As she scans the area, she notices that all of the mechanical animal dolls have ceased their movements, leaving her perplexed. Looking upward, she spots another one of the adversary's familiars playing a piano suspended in the air. The adversary informs Marie that it's time to bid farewell as all of his familiars begin playing music. He readies himself for a final attack, summoning a colossal tornado that engulfs Marie. When the tempest subsides, only a massive crater remains where she once stood. Believing he has defeated Marie, the creep retrieves a healing potion, but to his astonishment, Marie launches a surprise attack from behind, delivering numerous slashes to his back. Startled, the creep retreats, realizing he must unleash one last desperate attack to try and overcome Marie. Marie retrieves a special bullet from her bag and loads it into her pistol, preparing for a final confrontation with the creep. Both of them unleash their special attacks simultaneously, and as the dust settles, Marie remains standing alongside her familiar, while the creep lies on the ground, gasping his last breath. Marie approaches him without hesitation and delivers a fatal shot to his head, finally eliminating him. Meanwhile, Rei arrives at the west gate and notices Hugo and his mecha guarding it. Rei had doubted Hugo's loyalty, but his suspicions are confirmed as Hugo admits that Franklin is outside the gates engaged in a battle against the royal guards. Surprisingly, Hugo informs Rei that he's free to pass as Franklin wishes to face Rei alone. However, Rook is not allowed through. Rei agrees to the condition and charges towards the gates. Suddenly, Hugo reneges on his words, suggesting that they should engage in a brief exchange of attacks. Rei accepts the challenge and both of them rush towards each other. Utilizing his counter-absorption ability, Rei absorbs Hugo's attack, then retaliates with his own special attack, inflicting damage on Hugo. Seizing the opportunity, Rei swiftly moves through the gate. As Rei confronts Franklin, he notices that Franklin is summoning a gigantic monster and only 2 of the royal guards, including Lillian, remain. Rei activates his bracers and uses their power to burn the monster, preparing himself for the impending battle against Franklin. However, the intense battle takes a toll on Rei, and he loses consciousness momentarily. Franklin reveals that destroying the remote was part of his plan all along, manually releasing 5,000 out of the 58,000 remaining monsters from his creation. As Rei regains consciousness, he resolves to engage as many monsters as possible to buy time. He employs his poison skills to slow down the monsters, but one manages manages to divert his path. Fortunately, Marie intervenes, having turned out to be the assassin who previously killed Rei in the forest. Standing by Rei's side, she fights alongside him, aiming to eliminate as many monsters as they can together. Rook and other players join Rei and Marie in the battle, and they confront the giant dragon monster unleashed by Franklin. Rei prepares to fight it, even if it means sacrificing herself. However, before they clash, a mysterious figure appears and effortlessly destroys the dragon with a single kick. This person is revealed to be Shu, the anonymous last ruler of the kingdom, whose strength surpasses all others. He takes on the task of single-handedly eliminating the remaining 5,000 monsters. Frustrated by Shu's prowess, Franklin releases all the remaining monsters at once, believing that even Shu cannot handle such a large number. To Franklin's surprise, Shu summons his own battleship Embryo and begins destroying a significant portion of the monsters. However, Shu is unable to destroy Franklin's fortress because the princess is still held captive inside. Taking advantage of the situation, Rei rushes towards the fortress to confront Franklin. Franklin realizes Rei's intentions and keeps a close watch on him to ensure he doesn't take the princess away. Suddenly, a massive explosion occurs and Franklin turns his attention away to see that Shu has initiated an attack on his fortress. Confused by the turn of events, Franklin looks at Rei, who has remained still. To his shock, he realizes that the princess has disappeared, and Rei reveals that he was a decoy all along, allowing Marie to successfully rescue the princess while Franklin was distracted. Rei charges towards Franklin, but his path is blocked by Hugo, who appears in his mecha. Hugo, having changed his mind about Rei, attacks him. However, Rei manages to break one of Hugo's arms. Rei retaliates by jumping into the air, attempting to strike Hugo. Rei shows incredible tenacity and grabs the sword in his mouth, stabbing Hugo and defeating him. Rei doesn't stop there and continues his assault on Franklin. He punches Franklin with his remaining arm and uses his flame bracers to deliver a fatal blow. However, in the process, Rei loses his other arm and begins falling unconscious from the fortress. Fortunately, Nemesis intervenes and saves him, bringing him safely to the ground. Lillian, utilizing her healing abilities, manages to restore one of Rei's arms, but despite Lillian's efforts, she lacks the necessary skills to fully restore both of Rei's arms. Rei, although facing this permanent physical setback, is nonetheless relieved and grateful that the ordeal is finally over. With a nightmare behind him, Rei decides to return home, perhaps to focus on recovery and adapting to his new circumstances. And that's a wrap. We've reached the thrilling conclusion of this captivating story that took us on an incredible adventure. Brace yourself for a whirlwind of suspense, action, and unforgettable characters that had us totally hooked. From the heart-pounding battles to the mind-bending plot twists, this story kept us at the edge of our seats throughout. I hope you've had an absolute blast immersing yourself in this journey, just like I did. Remember to show some love by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and subscribing for more exhilarating stories like this. Stay tuned for upcoming exciting adventures. Thank you for joining me on this amazing ride.